Discover the inspiring journey of a eunuch, an incredible transformation hidden for 30 years. Jonathan had always been a quiet storm, never making waves but always present as a steadfast clerk at the Johnson family hardware store. For 30 years, the heart of Maplewood beat rhythmically around him, yet he felt like a ghost wandering through life's corridors. Every smile he shared with customers masked a secret so heavy it often made his chest tighten with the weight of unspoken truth. Beneath a cheerful facade lay an ache that whispered, "You don't belong." Raised in a household steeped in traditional masculinity, Jonathan bore a unique and painful truth. He was a eunuch, hiding in anonymity, feeling like a stranger in a community that valued conformity, but the winds of change were starting to stir in Maplewood. The hardware store his family built through blood, sweat, and years of dedication was now teetering on the brink of closure, and with it, a part of Jonathan that he had kept buried for too long. That looming threat lit a spark in him. "It's time," he thought, heart racing with an unfamiliar mix of hope and fear. If saving his job meant rallying the community, then perhaps he could also open hearts. A dream of establishing a community center for LGBTQ youth, where acceptance wasn't a dirty word but an everyday reality. Families gathered, sharing laughter and stories, breathing life into a melting pot of experiences that transcended their usual divides. Jonathan watched as parents and kids bonded over shared struggles. The atmosphere buzzed with possibility, a palpable energy that lifted his spirits, and for the first time in ages, he felt a connection like branches intertwining in a storm. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. However, as hopeful spirits soared, whispers of dissent began to seep through the cracks. Rumors twisted like vines, wrapping around the town's collective mindset and igniting skepticism towards Jonathan's intentions. What if this community day is a front for something else? Some grumbled, glancing suspiciously at those who dared embrace the outsider. Just as unease started to pulse like a thunderstorm brewing overhead, a tragedy struck in an accident that sent shockwaves through the town. Jonathan's secret was threatened with exposure. Standing before an audience that had painted threats of rejection in the silent glances exchanged among neighbors, Jonathan felt the spotlight's weight. The applause and laughter seemed distant as he wrestled with the moment that could alter his life forever. Torn between his desire to step into the light and the fear of being engulfed in darkness, his heart raced at the thought of opening up, of sharing his truth as fragile and impactful as glass. But before he could speak, a voice erupted from the back, slicing through the charged air like a knife. "We don't want your kind here." The crowd wavered, their reactions revealing an underlying tension, a mix of fear, confusion, and the familiar chains of tradition. Jonathan's heart pounded fiercely as he locked eyes with his family. They were all there, expressions layered with shock and a glimmer of love, but also fear flickering like a fragile flame. Could he transform a lifetime of silence into a message of hope? Can their hearts reshape in the face of a storm they were unprepared for? Just when he thought he might gather his courage, the moment slipped further away, leaving him on the brink of a reality he had always yearned for, yet feared deeply. Jonathan's breath caught in his throat. Every heartbeat echoed in his ears, loud and frantic. The harsh words from the crowd retched at the corners of his mind, pulling him back into the shadows he had fought so hard against. With the voice still ringing in his head, he glanced once more at his family. Their faces were a kaleidoscope of emotions: disbelief, concern, and a flicker of something warmer that he clung to fiercely, like a buoy in a turbulent sea. "Don't let them scare you," his sister's whispered encouragement pierced through the chaos. Her eyes shimmered with determination, igniting a small flame of bravery in Jonathan. Perhaps this was his moment, the one he had long avoided. A flicker of hope began to kindle in his heart. As he stood there, time stretched and bent around him. Each person in the crowd seemed caught between two worlds: the comfort of old beliefs and the allure of something new. Jonathan could see hesitation flickering like candlelight in their eyes. Some looked away, hands fidgeting, while others held a gaze that seemed to both question and wonder. Why can't they understand? Jonathan thought, the ache within him growing stronger. But deep down, he knew he could make them feel something different. With that realization, he felt the quiet storm within him swell, a yearning to break free. I am Jonathan, he finally spoke, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. I'm just a man who wants to build a future for the youth of our town. As he reached out, he took a step closer, grounding himself in the thin line between fear and revelation. I've spent my life hiding who I am. But today, I stand here not only for myself but for everyone who feels unseen. The murmurs in the crowd grew softer as his words echoed through the air. In that moment, he decided that he was done patching his life together with silence. A breath of courage filled his lungs. We have the power to change this town, to create a space where everyone is welcomed. Just then, Sheriff Thompson, a familiar face of authority, stepped forward. He had always been known for his firm hand, but today something shifted in his demeanor. Jonathan, he called out, his voice resonating with a calm that captured everyone's attention, I think we owe it to you to listen. This sparked a glimmer of hope in Jonathan. If the sheriff, a figure of power and tradition, could acknowledge him, could this dim light become a beacon for others? Please, Jonathan continued, let us not unite in fear but in understanding. Maplewood should shine as a place where love and acceptance are more than mere words. The crowd shifted again, some nodding, while others hesitated. Jonathan felt his heart racing, the unease coiling tighter, yet his resolve solidified. He was no longer just Jonathan the clerk, he was Jonathan the advocate. The silence hung heavy, allowing moments of reflection to settle among them. Suddenly, the first voice of support emerged. A young man stepped forward. We're tired of the fear. Let us hear him out. As he spoke, murmurs of agreement began to ripple through the crowd. For the first time, Jonathan sensed a thaw, a crack in the ice that had long held them captive, but as hope blossomed behind those words, Jonathan's heart still weighed heavy. Would the walls they'd built so high truly come crumbling down? He wondered about the hidden struggles in the hearts of each person before him. How many were suffering the same silence? This was just the beginning, and the climb would be steep. And as whispers of support began to fill the air with cautious optimism, another voice erupted from the back of the crowd. You think this will change anything? Jonathan turned towards the voice, caught between the challenge it posed and the hope that flickered like a distant star. The crowd held its breath as all eyes turned back to him, the pressure mounting. Could he stay true to himself when so many were still divided? His heart beat wild with questions, but he knew he had to answer. The moment felt crucial, but what would Jonathan say to turn skepticism into acceptance? Change is slow, Jonathan began, his voice steady, but it starts with a single step. What I'm asking today is for us to listen, to really listen. He could see the tension in the crowd, the way they shifted on their feet, exchanging glances, weighing their thoughts. There was an opening, a small crack where light could seep through. I know fear is powerful, he continued, letting his words cascade like a gentle stream. I felt it too for so long. Every time I chose silence, I was building walls around myself. But every wall we put up only isolates us more, keeping us from the love and acceptance we all deserve. A ripple of emotion flowed through the crowd, a soft murmur echoing against the chilly afternoon air. Behind him, Jonathan felt the presence of his family. They were his anchor, and with every word, he drew strength from them. His sister's eyes sparkled with a proud glimmer, while his mother squeezed his shoulder, a silent affirmation. Taking a step forward, Jonathan searched the faces. Old friends, neighbors, and those who had yet to understand waved like distant memories. He could feel their doubts, their struggles. I stand here not just as Jonathan, but as proof that we all have stories, stories worth sharing. I want to tell mine, and I want you to share yours. With a deep breath, he decided to bare his soul. I've wrestled with my identity, battling against what was expected of me. For 30 years, I played a role I didn't choose to fit into this town's image of who I should be. But standing here, I realize each one of us has the chance to rewrite our narrative. A young woman stepped forward, her expression caught somewhere between curiosity and fear. But what does it mean for us, Jonathan? How does this affect our lives? Her voice trembled, reflecting the anxiety that rippled among the crowd. It means opening our hearts, Jonathan replied, his voice rich with sincerity. It means we can create a town where different stories weave together, and no one is forced to hide. We should uplift one another, instead of tearing each other down. We'll rise together. The atmosphere shifted. Faces softened, some lowered in contemplation, while others seemed to light up with understanding. He wished he could dive into the depths of their emotions, plucking the pain and fear like weeds from a garden. Before Jonathan could continue, another voice called out, this time laden with raw skepticism. But we have traditions. What about our beliefs? A man stepped forth, frowning but undeniably curious, eyes darting around as if seeking support. Jonathan could feel the gravity of the words hanging in the air. Traditions bind us, but they should never hold us hostage. Our beliefs can evolve. Change doesn't mean abandonment, it's growth. It's an invitation to broaden our family, to accept those outside our norm without losing the love we've built. The sheriff stood quietly, nodding along, his approval marking a crucial point of acceptance for the crowd. Murmurs trickled through like ripples on a lake, growing stronger and more enthusiastic. Jonathan's heart beat faster, a wild melody of hope and anxiety. Once again, he locked eyes with his sister, who was practically beaming with pride. Imagine a Maplewood filled with laughter, friendships, and love, he continued, feeling the momentum surge through the air. Imagine if we allowed our town to reflect the beauty of all our stories. Our differences could become our strengths. The crowd, once fractured, was beginning to coalesce into a single entity, drawn together by a shared vision of possibility. As he spoke, Jonathan could feel himself lighten, shed the weight he'd carried for too long. Were they ready? Would they cross that threshold into understanding? But just as the crowd began to rally, another voice cut through the air, sharper than a knife. This is naive. You think everyone will want what you want? Jonathan paused, trapped between hope and doubt, and in that moment, he realized he had to confront this darkness head-on. Could he truly embrace their fear without yielding to it? Feeling the weight of the question hang thick in the air, he took a deep breath, ready to channel his courage. Let us find out together, he declared, his heart racing with anticipation and trepidation. The road ahead would be filled with obstacles, yet the flame of hope in him flickered steadily, refusing to die out. As he looked into the crowd, he realized this was just the beginning. Would he have the courage to guide them into the light? What would it take to change fear into understanding? A heavy silence enveloped the gathering. The air thick with uncertainty, Jonathan could feel a mix of fear and curiosity swirling among the people on the grassy hill. He scanned their faces, searching for more than just his own reflection in their eyes. He wanted to see hope, to see the flickers of understanding ignite. The man who had challenged him, his brow knit tight in skepticism, stood firmly like a rock amidst the waves of emotion. Jonathan didn't shy away from it. I get it, he said, his voice steady but warm. This change feels weird, uncomfortable. Right now, you may not want to listen to me, and that's okay. Just know I'm standing here because I'm done being quiet. We owe it to ourselves to try. A few heads nodded. Conversations buzzed softly like bees stirred from slumber. He caught snippets, a heartbeat of change thrumming in the air. What if maybe we could? Each phrase felt like a step closer to unity. There was a time when I believed no one would accept me, Jonathan continued, his heart laying bare. I lived behind a mask, afraid of rejection. It took years to realize that my truth has weight. Your truth has weight. What if we took the leap together? His sister stepped into view, her eyes shimmering as she called out, none of us are perfect. We're all finding our way. So why not make the journey together? Let us share our struggles instead of hiding them. The crowd shifted. Some murmured in agreement, others squinted, wrestling with their own fears and insecurities. That combination felt electric. I'm not asking you to abandon your traditions, Jonathan added, a gentle urgency framing his words. I'm asking you to open the door. Let us make our traditions our own. We could blend them with love, acceptance, and connection that knows no bounds. If we all brought a piece of ourselves into the light, Jonathan pressed on, voice rising above the low rumblings, think of the beauty we could create. Imagine gathering around tables, sharing meals where differences are celebrated and every voice is valued. The sheriff, a longtime beacon of stability in the town, took a few steps forward. It starts by listening, he said, nodding toward Jonathan. His weathered face crinkled into a smile, one that melted away the icy doubts. We have a chance to grow. Let us not waste it. With that, sunlight broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the scene. The crowd seemed to inhale that warmth, with faces lighting up in response, but just as hope flickered bright, a woman raised her hand, her expression sober. But what if we fail? What if we try and it backfires? Jonathan felt a shard of fear penetrate his heart. He had thought of this. He breathed deeply, choosing his words carefully. Every journey has risks. But what is the alternative? Staying silent? Being stuck in a cycle that hurts us? We owe it to ourselves to risk failure for the chance at something better. He scanned the crowd, taking note of the mix of emotions. Some seemed convinced, while others sat, arms crossed, weighing their choices. Jonathan's heart picked up its pace again. This was crucial. Together, we can start conversations that heal, that mend the cracks. No one has to walk this path alone. He paused, searching for one last thread of courage. So, tell me, are you ready to step into the light? Would you dare to share, to break the barriers that divide us? The crowd fell quiet, each person caught in a moment of reckoning. Just as the first brave hands began to raise, the ground beneath them rumbled slightly, reminding everyone of the storms they faced before. Jonathan held his breath. Could this transformation truly unfold? Would they all take that brave first step together? As the ground settled, an electric tension hung in the air. The first hand that shot up was from a teenager named Mia. Her blue eyes sparkled with nervous energy, reflecting the light around her. I want to share, she stammered, her voice a mixture of excitement and fear. I've always felt different, and it scares me. What if I'm not accepted? Jonathan felt a surge of pride and compassion. Thank you, Mia. You are brave for even considering this. Your voice matters, he said, encouraging her to continue. Mia took a shaky breath. I love to sing, but I've always been told that my voice isn't good enough. What if I sing, and everyone laughs? But what if they don't? The crowd shifted with murmurs of empathy. This was no longer just Jonathan's battle. It was theirs too, a collective struggle woven with their individual threads of vulnerability. Maybe we can create a space for everyone to share, another voice chimed in, a middle-aged man with a weathered face. We can help each other. Music, stories, it can bind us. Jonathan nodded, heart swelling. Exactly. Imagine organizing an open mic night. A place where we can all express ourselves without judgment. A festival of our truths. The idea resonated in the air like a sweet melody, stirring hopeful chants among the people. From the back, an elderly woman stood up. But what if it brings up old wounds? Her voice shook, and tears glistened in her eyes. I've faced so much loss and pain. It seems risky to open old wounds. Jonathan took a step toward her. I get it. It's terrifying. But healing comes from sharing, from being together in our stories. We don't have to carry our burdens alone. What if by sharing, we could lighten each other's loads? The crowd was still, the weight of her pain echoing in the air. Jonathan's heart raced. He could feel the emotions swirling, a storm yet to break. Mia stood again, this time with a firmer voice. I need to take that risk. I'm tired of staying silent. I want to sing. I want to share my truth and maybe inspire someone else. Cheers erupted, a tide of warmth and support crashing against the rocky shores of doubt. But above the excitement, Jonathan noticed the man who had challenged him earlier, his expression still wreathed in skepticism. Words are easy, the man called out. What happens when things go wrong? What happens when someone speaks up, and it's painful? A sudden hush swept over the crowd, the air thickening like fog. Jonathan could feel the weight of that question pressing down. I won't pretend it will be perfect, he replied honestly, his voice a beacon in the chaos. But isn't it worth the risk if it means moving towards understanding? We might stumble. We might fall. But together, we can rise each time. The man's gaze softened, just the slightest crack in his armor. And what if we don't? Jonathan stepped closer, the warmth battling against the uncertainty. Then we learn. We adapt. We cherish our attempts and the courage it took to face our fears head-on. Each time we try, we build something stronger. As hope danced in the air, another hand shot up this time, a reminder of the community they all shared. The crowd began to buzz again, voices intertwining as they brainstormed ideas for their open mic night, a gathering that promised to be the vital spark they needed, but as they rallied around Jonathan's words, far on the edges, shadows loomed. Unbeknownst to them, the nameless and faceless still watched, foreboding and silent, waiting for the perfect moment to lean in, to undermine this fragile unity. What would it take to fend off the doubts and challenges yet unseen? Jonathan's heart raced at the thought, knowing their journey was just beginning. With the crowd's energy electrifying the air, Jonathan felt a new urgency driving him forward. This was just the beginning, and the open mic night wasn't merely an event, it was a lifeline. He could see faces lighting up with ideas, with dreams they had hidden too long. I think we should celebrate diversity, chimed in a girl named Anya, her hair a burst of colors. How about making it a theme night? We can each share something that defines us, our backgrounds. Music, poetry, even stories from our cultures. Her voice infused the group with fresh enthusiasm. Jonathan nodded eagerly, swept up in the idea. Yes. Let's make it a night of connection. A way to embrace who we are and where we come from. But there was still that lingering shadow, the man with skepticism. He watched with narrowed eyes. And what if people get hurt? What will we do when an ugly truth spills out? His voice, though a whisper, pierced through the joy, the crowd went silent again, and Jonathan felt the weight of the world press down. Fear and hope tangled like vine and flower. We face it together, he said finally, his heart pounding in his chest. We listen. We validate each other's feelings. It's in those hard moments that real connection happens. Slowly, the man nodded. He seemed to draw back from the edge, just a little. Maybe, Jonathan echoed, his spirit lifting. Maybe this is a chance to show each other we care. We risk vulnerability, yes, but isn't that what life's about? Opening up not only brings healing but also growth. Then Mia stepped in again, a spark igniting in her eyes. I don't want to wait anymore. I want to sing my song tonight. A ripple of agreement surged through the crowd. Yes. Let us make tonight a rehearsal. Let's express ourselves now, here. If we practice before the open mic, it'll feel less scary. Someone shouted, laughter punctured the tension. Jonathan grinned, feeling the exhilaration radiate from the group. It was transforming into something bigger, a collective heart starting to beat as one. They were all stepping forward, ready to dig deep, even as they stood on uncertain ground. As the first few took their turns sharing snippets of their stories, confidence began to swell in the air. Anya spun a tale of her grandmother's journey from another country, weaving lines of laughter and tears. A young man named Leo did a spoken word piece filled with poignant truths that resonated deeply, but among the cheers of support, Jonathan felt the shadows lurking at the edges tighten. An unyielding feeling settled in his stomach. He sensed that not everyone felt warm and fuzzy about this unity being formed. Not everyone wanted to see change. The weight of those hidden eyes made it feel like they were dancing on the edge of a sword. Suddenly, Jonathan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at it, his heart halting for a moment. It was a message from a number he didn't recognize. The message was simple but cutting: "You've started something you can't control. It will all come crashing down." The laughter dimmed momentarily as Jonathan's heart raced. He was left grappling with the fear of the unknown brewing beneath the surface of their breakthrough. Could this light shine bright enough to fend off the darkness? Jonathan realized that the real challenge was just beginning, and with every pulse of hope, the shadows seemed to draw closer. What would be the price of their newfound courage? Jonathan's heart pounded in his chest. That message lingered in his mind like an ominous cloud darkening his hopeful vision. He tried to refocus on the stage as Mia prepared to perform, her excitement mingling with the anxiety thrumming under the surface. "Mia!" he called out, a smile plastered on his face, though his insides twisted. "Are you ready? This is your time." Her eyes sparkled, though he noticed a slight tremor in her hands. She looked towards the crowd, searching for encouragement. Gathering her breath, she moved to the center, confidence filling her, pushing away the fear. The room went quiet again, but this silence felt different. The audience leaned in, ready to embrace the vulnerability she offered. Mia took a deep breath, and as her voice spilled into the air, it was mesmerizing. The melody wrapped around every heart, pulling them together. "Love is different in every language," she sang, her voice lilting and strong. Each note lifted the heaviness off Jonathan's shoulders, reminding him that connection could exist despite the shadows that he watched as people swayed, lost in the moment, oblivious to the worries that plagued him. In that instant, he realized that vulnerability was both terrifying and beautiful. But then, in the back of his mind, that haunting message kept echoing: "You can't control what happens next." As Mia ended her song, the crowd erupted into applause. Jonathan was cheering, but a part of him felt dissonance, the uncertainty mixing with their victorious energy. "Who's next?" Anya called with unfettered enthusiasm, her aura sparking joy even in Jonathan's growing dread. "I'll go!" shouted Leo, his eyes ablaze with purpose. He stepped back onto the stage, ready to share. This time it wasn't a piece about hope, it was about isolation, a story of his struggle to find his identity in a world that demanded conformity. As Leo spoke, Jonathan felt as if the air thickened. Every word resonated, unveiling truths that sent shivers through the room. Yet, he couldn't ignore that sense of unease creeping back in, the unsettling feeling that someone was watching closely. He scanned the crowd, searching for that familiar face, the one behind the skepticism. Just beyond the swaying bodies, he spotted the man with the piercing gaze, lingering at the edge, arms crossed tight against his chest. Shadows seemed to gather around him, contrasting sharply with the buoyant happiness radiating from others. Leo's performance wrapped up, but Jonathan couldn't shake the anxious knot in his stomach. Was the man there to disrupt? To threaten the fragile connection they were weaving? "Jonathan!" Anya shouted, pulling him back to the moment. "You should share something too. This is about all of us." A weighty silence settled over the crowd. They were all looking at him now, waiting for him to step up, to be brave. But the question that plagued him wasn't just about his own story. Would his truth ignite flames or heal wounds? "Okay," he murmured, stepping towards the stage. The platform felt like a vast ocean, but he needed to swim. As he took a deep breath, he glanced once more at the shadowy figure lingering in the back. What would he unearth in this moment? Would his story be the lifeboat or the anchor? Jonathan began to speak as the crowd hushed, holding a collective breath. He felt the enormity of the unknown pushing against him. But somewhere in that uncertainty was the flicker of hope. Would he be able to confront both his audience and the dark unknown? The price of their newfound courage hung in the air, waiting to be revealed. Jonathan stood at the edge of the stage, the world around him fading away as the intense gaze of the audience pierced through him. He took a moment to collect himself, feeling the weight of all their expectations resting on his shoulders. His breath was shaky, just like Mia's hands had been moments before. "This is it," he thought, the words echoing in his mind. "You're not just telling your story, you're sharing a piece of yourself." He opened his mouth, and the words began tumbling out, tentative at first, but gaining strength with each passing second. "I want to talk about loneliness," he started, his voice wavering slightly. "Loneliness isn't just being alone in a room, it's that feeling in a crowded space when you still feel invisible." Jonathan saw nods among the audience, a flicker of connection as he laid his truth bare. "For years, I wore a mask. I pretended to fit in, to be someone I wasn't. I felt pressure from family, friends, and society to play a role, to be good enough." As he spoke, Jonathan noticed a shift in the room. What once felt like their judgment was now leaning towards empathy. He caught sight of Mia's encouraging smile and Anya's supportive nod. But the man at the back remained unyielding, his arms still crossed tightly, his expression unreadable. "I've struggled not just with isolation, but with accepting myself," he continued, the rush of adrenaline fueling his courage. "I've spent so many years feeling trapped in who I was told to be, but the point is, I've learned that I can still change. I can still be me." Jonathan felt a wave of warmth wash over him as he felt the audience's attention shift. Each face was now a mirror reflecting his own struggle for acceptance. "Being true to ourselves involves risk," he said, those words ringing loud and clear. "It means facing the fears that hold us back, fears of being rejected or mocked. But what I've learned is that there's strength in vulnerability. In showing our true selves, we open the door for others to do the same." The applause started softly, like a ripple in water, then swelled into a wave of support. Jonathan's heart soared. It felt right, but then, that ominous figure flickered into his mind again, a dark cloud looming over the brightness, a reminder that not everyone would understand. He clenched his fists, unwilling to let that shadow dim his light. "I want to be seen for who I really am," he confessed, his voice steady and resolute. "And I hope that by sharing my story, you will find the courage to face your own struggles and embrace who you are. Because we are all worthy of love and acceptance, regardless of our past." The applause erupted louder, an eruption of validation that made Jonathan's heart race with adrenaline and hope. He stepped back and caught Mia's eye, her gaze bright, filled with pride, but then, he noticed movement at the back. The man with the piercing gaze was stepping forward, making his way through the crowd. Jonathan felt a pang of anxiety stab at him. Was he coming to confront him, to challenge the message he had just shared? "Jonathan!" Anya's voice called out again, cutting through the emotional haze. "You have to keep going. This is just the beginning." Jonathan took a step back, barely able to breathe as he awaited the man's approach, uncertainty mingling with determination. What awaited him now? Would his truth hold strong against the confrontation he sensed looming ahead? The moment felt electric, the room hanging on the brink of something unknown. Would he emerge with his newfound courage intact, or would the shadow pull him back into doubt? As the man approached, Jonathan could feel the air prickling with anticipation. The audience hushed. Every heartbeat felt like a drum echoing in the silence. Who was this man? What was he going to say? The figure stopped just in front of the stage, his features suddenly caught in the bright lights. Jonathan felt his pulse quicken, a mix of apprehension and curiosity surging through him. "Jonathan." The man began, his voice steady but laced with an emotion Jonathan couldn't quite place. "I'm here to tell you that your words matter." Ticking down the seconds, Jonathan searched the man's expression for any glimmers of hostility, but all he saw was an intensity that seemed to compel the audience forward. The man shifted his stance, his arms slowly uncrossing, revealing a vulnerability that threatened to disarm Jonathan's own nerves. "You may not know me, but I've heard your story tonight," he said, his voice now tinged with something softer, almost pained. "And I need you to know you are not alone." There was a shift, a subtle bond forming between them. Jonathan was taken aback. This wasn't the confrontation he had expected, yet he felt the weight of those words settle in his heart. The man continued, "I've spent my life fighting my own battles. I have been where you are. The moment you spoke about loneliness, I felt every bit of that ache. I've concealed my truth, hidden behind walls of expectations just like you. But, I learned that revealing my flaws and fears has been my greatest strength." The audience stirred, sensing the shared resonance between them. Jonathan's breath came in waves as the realization dawned on him. This wasn't a fight, this was connection. As he searched the man's face, he caught a familiar glint, the struggle for acceptance mirrored in those depths, an echo of his own journey. "You have inspired me tonight," the man said, stepping forward as if to breach an unseen chasm. "You've reminded me that it's time to embrace my own truth. To let others see who I really am." Jonathan felt tears prick at his eyes. Something inside him awoke, a powerful realization swirling with warmth and hope. "You too?" he whispered, allowing the sentiment to float free. A chorus of murmurs rippled through the audience, alive with sudden understanding. Here they were, united by shared experiences of fear and hope, potential and acceptance. The man nodded, emotion cracking his voice. "We all have a story that needs telling, timid at first, but powerful under the right light. What you did tonight, it ignited something in me. Maybe, just maybe, we can help each other." Jonathan, heart pounding as he took in the moment, felt an undeniable truth shift within him. A tapestry woven of stories, threads of brokenness binding together in a beautiful mess. This was what they were creating, but just as he reveled in this new connection, a distant memory rushed back, a time when he shared a stage with someone else, a moment of betrayal, an older friend turned foe. The weight of that past loomed, whispering questions into the back of his mind. Could he trust enough to let this man in? Would this familiar specter of doubt again steer him off course? Before he could answer himself, the audience erupted in applause once more, this time for him and the man by the stage, a tribute to shared courage. Faces glowed with admiration, yet Jonathan felt a seed of uncertainty creep in. What if opening up brought more shadows? What if he would face rejection again? The energy in the room swirled, electrifying and heart-stirring, as Jonathan stood at the intersection of fear and freedom. Would he seize this chance to transform further, or would he let the past eclipse this moment? With his heart racing, something deep inside whispered, "You have to choose." What path awaited him? Would he continue to build these bridges, or retreat into his own safety? And that thought urged him forward. What was next for him and the unexpected ally standing by his side? Jonathan felt the warmth of the crowd's support surge through him, a tidal wave of acceptance washing over a heart that had long been burdened by fear. The man beside him, once a stranger, now felt like a co-journeyer in this newly lit path of vulnerability. With every clap and cheer, the air around them shimmered with possibility, a connection forming, fragile yet powerful. Together, Jonathan said, his voice steady, we can weave our stories into something beautiful. We can create a town that embraces who we are, in all our messiness. He glanced back at Mia, Anya, and the countless faces in the audience, kindred spirits ready to soar into a new dawn. From deep within the crowd, a bold voice rang out. Let us not just talk. Let us act. It was Leo, his passion palpable. We should organize events, workshops, moments where we can all come together. Let us make this a movement. The crowd erupted in applause, fueled by the energy of hope and newfound courage. Jonathan's heart raced. This was what he envisioned, an unstoppable wave of change. Yes. Jonathan shouted back, rallying the expressions surrounding him. Let us create spaces to connect. An arts festival, community days, where every voice can be heard. We can evolve together and lift us all higher. Amidst the cheering, Jonathan's heart soared. It began to feel real, the dream of a brighter Maplewood, one where acceptance was just a fleeting notion but a tangible reality. But then, from the back, he noticed the hardened skeptic still standing there, watching with crossed arms, and for a fleeting moment, that familiar shadow of doubt crept back into his heart. Would the fears of some overshadow the dreams of many? He shook the thought away, letting it drift into the abyss. Let him share. Someone yelled from the crowd, urging the man forward. Jonathan could feel the unease swirling, but he refused to let it dim his light. The man stepped into the circle, vulnerability etched across his features. You all have inspired me tonight more than I can express. I've battled so long with my own fears, held back by expectation, he confessed. Being here, witnessing your stories, it's a call to action. I want to change too. The audience began to nod in understanding. They had all walked their own roads of apprehension, they knew the heavy weight of the unknown. Let us challenge ourselves to embrace the uncomfortable. To put pen to paper, to dance and sing our truths, the man continued, his voice growing in conviction. Because change is not just about accepting. It's about the courage to create. A wave of approval pulsed through the crowd, as hearts began to unite. They were melting, barriers dropping with every shared story and spoken truth. In that moment, Jonathan faced the crowd, grateful tears glimmering in his eyes. This is our moment, Maplewood. Let us be the beacon of hope for ourselves and others. It starts here, it starts now. Cheers erupted once more, laughter intermingling with tears of joy. It felt like a celebration of every challenge faced, every wound healed. A promise that their stories mattered, that their truths could change lives, starting with their own. As the applause pulsated through the park, Jonathan felt as if a weight had been lifted. The shadows that had lingered were dissipating, transforming into a collective strength. In unity, they found hope, and in hope, Jonathan saw himself whole, authentic, and beaming bright. With one last glance towards the horizon, Jonathan took a deep breath, letting the essence of this moment wash over him. This is just the beginning. He shouted, his voice ringing, echoing conviction into the hearts of all present. In that shared space of acceptance and belonging, they all discovered they were intricately woven into the fabric of something beautiful, a community ready to transform and embrace the spectrum of humanity. As Jonathan smiled through the tears, he understood, they would rise together, facing everything the world had to offer, hearts open, hands joined. Yes, change would be a journey, full of bumps along the way. But together, as one, they would navigate the storm, and it was in that realization that Jonathan felt the most alive he'd ever been. As the sunlight dipped lower and the stars began to twinkle above, he knew this was the moment he had waited for, a life no longer hidden, a heart no longer tethered, and a community no longer afraid. He turned to face them once more, a radiant smile on his face. Let us seize this moment and never look back. Now, it's your turn to be part of this journey, to support each other, and share your own stories. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that can inspire hope. Leave a like now to help fuel the algorithm and wave of love around us. Comment below your reactions and feelings about today's incredible transformation. Your voice is vital, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. The chance to ignite change is in our hands, together.